It was my first time back at my father's company in 10 years. Even siblings can have such a huge difference, huh? The one who inherited the company from my father wasn't my older brother, who dropped out of high school, but my successful younger brother, who graduated from a prestigious university. The one mocking this was the star salesman of the company. Family-run companies sure are kind to their own. I wonder if someone who dropped out of high school is really capable of handling work. What have you been doing up until now? Please don't tell me it's been nothing but blue-collar jobs. It was my younger brother, Henry, now the company president, who spoke up. You don't know how talented my brother really is, do you? The elite colleague who had mocked me turned pale at those words. My name is Alex, and I've just been appointed as the new sales manager. I'm Alex, 35 years old. After nearly a decade, I found myself back at the company my father founded, introducing myself to the sales department, which I would now be managing. In the rather odd month of November, I was assigned to a position that hadn't existed before, sales manager. Though no one said it outright, I could feel the questioning eyes on me. Some of you may already know, but Alex is President Carter's brother. He's been learning from other companies. And now we've created this new manager position for him to apply that knowledge here. Ray, the department head, added this explanation about me, addressing the silent questions in the room. The moment he said President Carter's brother, I could clearly sense the tension rise. Yes, Henry is indeed my younger brother, but I don't have the same authority as him, so please don't feel too nervous around me. I'm not really one for formalities, so let's keep things casual. Also, since you all have more experience in sales here than I do, I'll be relying on your guidance. I look forward to working with you. When I smiled and said that, the atmosphere in the room softened a little. Not everyone at the company was unfamiliar with me. Some of the senior staff and the longtime office ladies knew who I was. But for those who didn't know me, telling them not to be nervous was asking the impossible. Especially the two new hires this year, who both looked particularly tense. One was Sam, 29 years old. He previously worked at a major securities firm. As you'd expect from someone with that background, he was already used to corporate sales and had many clients under his belt. The second was Emily, 27 years old. Her previous job was at a car dealership. Having come from an industry focused on individual clients, she was clearly struggling compared to Sam. Alex, I'd like to formally introduce myself again. I look forward to working with you. It was at the welcome party held that weekend. Sam, holding a bottle of beer, poured into my half-empty glass. In just a week, Sam had become much more comfortable talking to me. Of course, I had made a point to talk with all the employees, but Sam had been especially proactive in reaching out to me. He graduated from the same university as Henry, was a good listener, and had a pleasant personality. Even as a mid-career hire, his performance reviews were already positive. He had a knack for figuring out who he should align himself with and was the type who knew how to flatter those in power. Personal preferences aside, this was exactly the kind of person who would survive and climb the ranks in a company that still adhered to Japan's seniority-based system. My father's company, founded during the bubble economy of the Showa era, was no exception. Since Henry took over as president, he had been trying to change that system. But with my father still wielding power as chairman and the board members benefiting from the old ways, progress was slow. Sam, you don't need to keep going around like that. Just relax, eat, and drink. I felt a bit uncomfortable with all the formality and attention. I've never been one for the culture of over-the-top politeness or excessive deference to bosses. That's right, Sam. In these situations, it's always better to have a young lady pour the drinks. Hey, Emily. Go sit next to Alex. Perhaps misinterpreting my words, a male employee named Michael, already tipsy, called out to Emily. He was approaching 50, and his position was a team leader. It was unclear if he had any ambition left, as he had never taken any of the promotion exams for management. In a company where pay increased with seniority, he was probably very comfortable. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have been more thoughtful. Emily hastily tried to move seats after being called out. What I had gathered about her in just a week was that she was too agreeable. While Sam also had good social skills, he was selective about it. Emily, on the other hand, accepted everything head-on and bore the weight of it all. She seems like the one being taken advantage of here. Emily, it's fine. Stay where you are. Michael, be careful, you don't want this turning into a harassment issue. I'd hate to be called to HR with you right after arriving here. I playfully scolded him, and Michael, his face red, laughed sheepishly, saying, "Oh. Close call." I decided to send him on a new client visit next week to keep him busy. Sam, you don't need to keep pouring drinks for Alex. Come over here. Calling over Sam was Claire, the sales assistant. Almost 60, she had been working here since my father's time. She knew more about this company than I did. Nowadays, even women can be sued for harassment, but Sam smiled and moved over to her table, so I let it slide this time. The party ended on a pleasant note, and I'd say my new start with this colorful group of individuals was going smoothly, for better or worse. Little did I know, though, that the following week would bring complications. On Monday, I was reviewing a list of potential new clients, assigning them to different staff. I called Sam and Emily to the manager's office and started going over their assignments, but I noticed something felt off. Understood. I'll report the progress to John, the section chief. Sam's attitude towards me was noticeably colder than the previous week. Though he was still smiling, the flattery he had shown me before was gone. I didn't need him to flatter me, but his attitude now felt oddly insincere. Is something wrong, Sam? Not one to let doubts linger, I asked directly. Huh? What do you mean by something? Sam's smile stiffened. I'm the one who assigned this task to you. You should be reporting the progress to me. So why did you say you'd report to John instead of me? Well. Sam seemed startled and struggled for words. If you have something on your mind, feel free to speak up. I encouraged him while looking him straight in the eye. Sam looked up at me. There was no smile on his face. At last week's party, I heard you dropped out of high school, Alex? Huh? Oh, yeah, I did drop out of high school. Caught off guard by the unexpected mention of high school at my age, I almost lost my composure. It must have been Claire. I immediately figured out the source. I had assumed you went to the same or a similarly prestigious university as President Carter, but I guess not. It makes sense now why your brother took over as president. As Sam spoke, his expression gradually turned into a sneer. I'm not sure what you're getting at. Well, I just realized the company created this grand position for you out of family love. You've been placed here because a family-run business tends to look after its own. Seems like the company's pretty generous with its relatives. I was more exasperated than angry, barely resisting the urge to sigh. But as much as I could ignore insults aimed at me, I couldn't overlook his disrespect towards the company and Henry. Does that explain why you're neglecting to report to me? And if you have a problem with how this company is run, you're not obligated to stay. Just as the company has the right to choose who it hires, you have the right to choose where you work. Though my words were calm, my eyes weren't smiling. That's not what I meant. I just believe that inefficiency should be avoided in any job. The reason I chose to work here was because I respected President Carter's vision of cutting down on inefficiencies. Realizing the shift in my tone, Sam hesitated for a moment, then quickly continued. That's why I think it's highly inefficient to have approvals go through someone in a vague new role like yours, when we've always gone through Section Chief John. And frankly, I question whether someone who dropped out of high school can make sound decisions. Have you even worked in sales before? Please don't tell me all you've done is blue-collar work. Sam was speaking faster, likely out of wounded pride from feeling outclassed by someone he deemed inferior. To me, it only made him seem more ridiculous. I understand your stance. From now on, report your progress to John or the other managers. I gave up trying to argue and dismissed him, leaving Sam with a smug expression as he walked away, saying, "Yes, I'll do that." Beside me, Emily stood there wide-eyed, clearly unsure of what to do, fidgeting nervously. Her reaction was so obvious that I couldn't help but chuckle. Don't worry about it. This isn't something for you to stress over. Oh, I'm sorry. I just never imagined Sam would act like that towards you. Apparently, Emily had been looked down upon by Sam since she joined the company. In his eyes, my university is third-rate, which, honestly, is true. And since joining, he's been outperforming me, so... She let out a small, self-deprecating laugh. You were hired because the company believed you'd be an asset, just like Sam. There's no need to compare yourself to him or put yourself down. It was true that Sam had already secured several new contracts, while Emily was struggling to gain traction. However, her evaluations from existing clients weren't bad. With the right guidance, she could become a valuable asset herself. Thank you. I'll keep trying my best. Her determined eyes made me want to root for her even more. Time passed, and soon it was February. Since that day, Sam had kept his interactions with me to the bare minimum. He still maintained a professional front at work, with his usual polite smile, never letting personal feelings show during office hours. And with his solid sales performance over the past 3 months, there wasn't much for me to criticize. On the other hand, despite Emily's strong determination, her sales numbers lagged far behind Sam's. Sam consistently left work on time, while Emily often stayed late, working overtime about half the week. In another era, Sam might have been criticized for not putting in extra hours, but in today's world, with an emphasis on efficiency, overtime isn't encouraged. Even in this company, we've implemented no overtime days once a week, reflecting the changing times. Since Sam delivered results without working overtime, no one had grounds to complain. Our company generally doesn't condone overtime for regular employees, which means a manager must stay whenever someone is working late. While some overtime is unavoidable, it's the manager's job to ensure people don't overextend themselves. Once again, this Friday, well past quitting time, I found Emily glued to her desk, staring intently at her computer. Remembering that she had worked overtime last Friday as well, I called out to her, it's important to balance work and life. TGIF, after all. I wondered if people in their 20s even understood the term TGIF. TGIF. Then I'd love to grab a drink with you. Her crescent-shaped smile showed she was amused by my old-fashioned phrase. Over the past 3 months, Emily had grown quite comfortable with me, occasionally inviting me out for drinks. I usually brushed it off with a casual maybe sometime, but today, seeing the shadow of weariness on her face, I felt it would be too cruel to turn her down. How about we go to a nearby place? I replied. Emily, expecting me to decline as usual, blinked in surprise before her face lit up. I'll get ready right away. Watching her respond with such excitement made me smile as I called my usual spot to make a reservation. Maybe I'm just not cut out for sales, Emily muttered as she sipped her warm sweet potato shochu. Nibbling on cream cheese with smoked radish, it was clear she enjoyed her drinks. I don't think that's the case. If you're not seeing results, you just need to find your own approach. It hasn't even been a year since you joined, so there's no need to rush. As she raised the empty beer bottle to the counter and ordered, "I'll have your recommended cold sake," Emily spoke. But the gap between Sam and me has gotten so wide over these past 3 months. I feel bad for the company. I was hired as an experienced professional, after all. She spoke in a low voice, clearly weighed down by her own expectations. As I've said before, you were hired because the company believed you could contribute. You don't have to bear all that pressure on your own. It's not just about you or Sam, it's about all of us working together to make the company better. Sure, individual skills are important in sales, but so is teamwork. You've got a tendency to take on everything by yourself, from research to execution, but you should lean on others a bit more. If you need help, ask the sales assistants. Claire, for example, knows a lot about our existing clients. As I spoke, Emily put down her chopsticks and listened intently, a sign of her sharp intellect. I gestured towards her empty glass. Relax and enjoy yourself. Drink and eat as much as you like. I'm not one for overly formal situations. By the time she finished her third glass of shochu, Emily was in high spirits. I'm really happy that you finally invited me out to eat. It's been a great Friday night. In reality, I had only agreed because she wore me down, but seeing her grinning and enjoying herself didn't make me feel bad about it. At first glance, Emily's impression was that of a sharp, beautiful woman. Her slightly stern eyes softened into crescent shapes when she smiled, making her seem much more approachable. Her constantly changing expressions reflected her open and cheerful personality. These days, male bosses can't just casually invite their female employees out for drinks, you know. I commented lightly as I popped a piece of soft shrimp ball into my mouth, savoring the sake's fragrant aroma. If I don't mind, would you invite me out again? She looked at me with a teasing smile, clearly feeling the effects of the alcohol. Emily tilted her head slightly, causing her medium bob to fall gently, almost touching her glass. I reached out to tuck her hair behind her ear. Maybe next time if your grades improve. Her face flushed red, and she looked down, murmuring, "I'll do my best." The stark contrast between her earlier boldness and her sudden shyness left me a bit flustered. It's already been 2 months since Emily, with a flushed face, declared she'd do her best. Both Emily and Sam, the 2 mid-career hires, are now entering their 2nd year at the company. Taking my advice to heart, Emily had begun relying more on her colleagues within the department, and her performance was gradually improving. Over the past year, she had built strong relationships with existing clients, which led to an increase in contracts from referrals. On the other hand, Sam continued to maintain his solid performance. But, to put it another way, he wasn't showing any signs of growth. From an HR perspective, his performance over the past year wasn't problematic. However, in recent months, there had been murmurs of dissatisfaction within the department regarding Sam's behavior. The most vocal complaints came from Claire and the rest of the sales assistants. He always comes to us just before we're about to clock out, asking us to create data or do whatever else, saying he needs it first thing in the morning. And then he leaves right on time while making us stay late. Can you believe that? It wasn't just internal complaints. Sam was reportedly turning down most appointments with existing clients if they were after work hours, always coming up with some excuse. He had even received complaints over the phone. I couldn't overlook this situation any longer, so I called Sam into the refreshment room after work. The recently built cafe-style break room is intentionally located in a high-traffic area to encourage interaction between departments, rather than being made into private rooms. It features a coffee maker and snacks for easy grabbing, and is designed to be used not only for breaks but also for tasks like working on a computer or holding meetings. Though it was usually a popular spot, after hours, it was just me and Sam. Sales depends on clients. Sometimes that means working overtime to accommodate them. You should also reconsider how you delegate tasks to the sales assistants. Try to assign tasks earlier, or if it becomes a frequent issue, you should step in to handle it yourself. Sam's usual smile remained plastered on his face, seemingly unfazed by my words. Are you saying the company's policy is to enforce overtime? I contact important clients after hours when needed, but I have no intention of working overtime for clients who don't warrant it. And as for the sales assistants, isn't it their job to support us? I don't see what the issue is. His words, while smiling, didn't fully mask his underlying irritation. Perhaps he was aware of the recent criticism, or maybe he simply didn't like being called out by me. I'm not enforcing overtime, I'm saying it's necessary sometimes. You might think you can decide which clients deserve your time, but that's not your call, it's the company's. Also, making the assistants stay late for tasks you could have handled during regular hours is forcing them to do unnecessary overtime. And that's not part of their job description. I kept my tone calm and emotionless. Then, Sam's smile vanished. I'm getting results with my current approach. Time is money, you know. Have you heard that in America, efficiency is everything? Japan's outdated methods are a waste of resources. Or what? Are you saying I should be more like Emily? She's always working late. You must like her old-fashioned work ethic since she's your favorite, right? I mean, she's been landing more contracts lately, hasn't she? Don't mock me. Before I could respond, Emily, who had apparently overheard the conversation, interjected with fury in her voice. Her face was flushed with anger. I may have gotten advice from Alex, but I've never been given any work just because of favoritism. Yes, I've worked more overtime than you, but recently I've been trying to adjust my schedule to avoid it. And the way you're talking isn't just insulting to me, it's insulting to the clients I've worked with and the sales assistants who've helped me. You should apologize. Emily, who had previously kept quiet when Sam had belittled her behind her back, was now standing up for herself with clear anger. Both Sam and I were taken aback by her sudden outburst. Anyway, I'm not changing my methods. I'm not interested in small deals like Emily's. I'll keep doing things my way. His retort sounded more like the desperate bark of a sore loser. Without looking at me, Sam stormed out, muttering a brief "excuse me" as he left. I let out a deep sigh. However, what I had dismissed as the ranting of a sore loser turned out to be short-lived. The following week, Sam did, in fact, secure a major contract. The client was a foreign company that had recently made significant inroads into the Japanese market. attracting the attention of numerous domestic firms. Securing this contract promised to bring in one of the largest profits the company had seen in recent years. And the sales department was buzzing with excitement even before the deal was finalized. Sam was being praised by management for his accomplishment, and even Henry, the president, personally came down to the department to congratulate him. Wow, Sam! Only in your second year, and you've already pulled off something like this. Looks like you're on the fast track to success. This year's sales target will be a breeze. Even Michael, always eager to jump on the winning side, was now openly voicing his admiration. Beaming from the praise of the president, Sam shot me a smug look. He even turned to Emily, saying with a grin, "Sorry, I didn't mean to steal that deal from you, Emily." The client had indeed been one that Emily had researched months ago and added to the prospect list. Emily said nothing in response, but she appeared deep in thought. On the day the contract was to be signed. "Why is Alex coming with me?" We had gone to the client's office to finalize the deal, with signatures already prepared on the documents. Sam had expected to be accompanied by Ray, the department head, but instead found me by his side. I requested that Alex come along. The contract, once signed by all parties, would be sealed in the presence of Henry himself. Sam had no choice but to remain silent at Henry's words. "We should go." "I'm sure the other party is waiting," I urged. Though Sam gave me a skeptical look, he reluctantly followed me into the company. "We will not be entering into a contract with your company." Sam had just begun speaking with, "Thank you for considering us," when he was cut off by Henry, who interrupted with the news while being welcomed by the smiling representative. "Mr. Carter." Sam panicked, and I calmly informed him I was the one who suggested we back out. "You've got to be kidding." Sam, forgetting all titles and decorum, lunged at me. I merely glanced at him, saying, "Sam, know your place." Startled by my low voice, Sam released me and fell silent. "What are you saying at this point?" The other party's representative looked just as baffled as Sam. "I reviewed the contract you prepared. Thank you for providing it in both Japanese and your native language. Did you think we'd only read the Japanese version?" At this, the other party's face twitched slightly. Due to regulatory and payment processing issues, the contract must be in our language. But as you can see, it's the same in both versions. So there shouldn't be a problem. It clearly states that the contract in your language takes precedence. Yet that clause is missing from the Japanese version. And having the court of jurisdiction in your country is quite different from what we discussed. When I pointed this out, the other party shouted, "Shut up," in English and began speaking rapidly. I responded in English, only for them to switch to another language entirely. Sam, who had been following along in English, now became visibly flustered as he couldn't understand the sudden shift in language. "I told you, we cannot agree to such a contract," I said, responding in the same language. Both the other party and Sam looked shocked. "Let me make this clear, Mr. Johnson, your CEO, is a friend of mine from grad school. Does he know about this shady business practice of yours?" Angered by their underhanded tactics, I spoke without thinking. Why would the boss be friends with a Japanese guy? We were classmates at Oxford. I dropped out of high school halfway through my junior year, against my parents' wishes. It wasn't because I couldn't keep up with schoolwork or because I was being bullied. I was good at my studies and had plenty of friends. Simply continuing through high school, going to a prestigious university as my father wished, and taking over his company. That kind of life felt unbearably dull to me. There has to be something more exciting than just walking the path laid out for me, I thought. Looking back, it was just the selfishness of a young kid. After turning 20 and working part-time jobs, I suddenly decided I wanted to see the world, so I became a backpacker. I funded my travels through short-term jobs in Japan and high-paying clinical trials abroad disguised as volunteer work. My father eventually gave up on me and decided to hand the family business to my younger brother, Henry. I did feel bad about dumping that responsibility on him, but Henry smiled and said, "It's a lucky break for me." I always thought Henry was mild-mannered and peace-loving, but it turns out he had ambitions of his own. Traveling the world, I encountered all kinds of people. In countries that were still struggling to develop, I saw extreme poverty. I was ashamed of myself for having been dissatisfied with my life. Even though I had everything I needed, I realized I was powerless. I couldn't even help a single person who depended on me. I wanted to create a business that could serve as a safety net for people like them. That was the first time in my life that I had a real goal and a dream. After 3 years of backpacking, I returned to Japan and immediately took the high school equivalency exam. I begged my father to let me work at his company and learn the ropes of running a business. But the daily grind of working my way up in a traditional Japanese company felt peaceful yet monotonous. And I realized that to build a truly global business, I needed to address global issues with a deeper understanding. I studied intensely while working and, at 26, enrolled in a university in the UK. By 31, I had entered Oxford for grad school, where I dove deep into business and marketing. "You're the one who should take over the company," Henry told me when he offered me the position of CEO, but I turned it down. I had borrowed money from my father to attend university and grad school, but I was determined to pursue my dream, not inherit his company. After graduating from grad school, I started a business handling procedures for international Japanese language schools on behalf of schools in Japan, while continuing my freelance travels around the world. With my father's company now passed on to Henry, he approached me for advice, saying he wanted to expand the business globally. That's why he asked me to help lay the foundation for this new business. Since the business idea is still under wraps, only the management and executives know the real reason I've joined as a manager. Oxford, you say? Hearing the name of the university, Sam froze. I never meant to hide it, but there was no reason to bring it up either. Degrees don't mean much, though it has helped me sort out a few people. Without looking at him, I said this coldly, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sam flinch. Not expecting someone connected to their CEO to be working at what they likely viewed as a small, insignificant Japanese company. The other party continued ranting in Mandarin, shouting, "That's a lie." Ignoring them, I made a phone call. After a few rings, the voice on the speakerphone said in broken Japanese, "Alex? Long time no see." It was Mr. Johnson, the CEO. "Long time no see. Sorry for the sudden call, but your team here is trying to pull something shady with us," I replied in Cantonese, one of the most difficult dialects of Chinese. This was his native language. The other party, clearly not expecting me to speak that language, turned pale, realizing the consequences that might follow. After a brief exchange, Mr. Johnson apologized. "I'm really sorry, Alex." I joked back, "No problem, it was fun to brush up on my Cantonese." He chuckled and said, "Your Cantonese still needs work, but let me know the next time you're in town." The deal was called off, and thanks to Mr. Johnson's intervention, the other party, who had been ready to push back hard, was left speechless and forced to agree to cancel the contract. With no major damage done, I breathed a sigh of relief. On the way back in the taxi, Henry thanked me and, out of curiosity, asked, "I didn't know you could speak so many dialects of Chinese. How many languages do you know now?" "Well, enough for business purposes. I can get by in Japanese, English, Chinese, and maybe Spanish. For everyday conversation, about 7. Including Japanese. 7 languages." Ah. Sam, who had been sulking in silence like he was attending a funeral, gasped in surprise. "Alex, I'm really sorry." "And thank you," he said from the front seat, bowing deeply. "There's no need to apologize. I've already seen what kind of person you are and how you approach your work. So I'm not getting involved any further. I'm not a saint. When it comes to business, I don't see the point in helping someone who approaches their work with an attitude I can't tolerate. You once said something about time is money, but people who know how to work spend their time and money where it matters. This contract brought nothing to the company. If anything, this wasted time is what I consider a bad use of resources." Sam hung his head, clearly not expecting me to reject his apology so flatly. Henry coughed awkwardly and gave me a glance, likely suggesting I was being too harsh. I let out a deliberately exaggerated sigh. "If you want to thank someone, thank Emily. She sensed something was off with that deal from the start, which is why she didn't push the negotiations. She spent time thoroughly researching it. So, while you were looking down on her for her lack of academic credentials, she was doing far more for the company than you were. Did you even bother to check your facts? In business, it's not about where you studied, it's about how you apply what you learned." Henry lightly nudged me with his elbow as I spoke, breaking my serious tone. All right, I muttered, scratching my head. "If you're planning to change how you approach your work and want some advice, feel free to come talk to me." "Yes. Thank you," Sam responded quietly. Henry, slightly amused by my blunt tone, let out a small laugh. This is about as kind as I get. When we returned to the office, the atmosphere was as gloomy as a funeral, just like Sam had been earlier. All eyes were on him as he walked in, and he immediately bowed deeply. "I'm sorry." The room fell even quieter. I could see Sam's back trembling slightly. Although we didn't secure the contract, I personally, and as a company, believed this outcome was for the best. It could have been any of us in his shoes, so this experience will help all of us improve our skills moving forward. We also have some lessons to learn about taking quicker action next time. But from here on, let's all work together to keep things moving forward as a team. Placing a hand on Sam's shoulder, I spoke. His voice trembled as he replied, "Thank you, and I'll do my best." The rest of the team responded with a resounding yes. "Seems like you'd be better suited for a leadership role after all, big brother," Henry remarked. I just shrugged in response. A few days later, as I passed by the break room after work, I saw Sam and Emily there. "I'm sorry for looking down on you because of your academic background," Sam said, speaking slowly as he sat on the sofa. At my previous job, it was all about the number of contracts, constantly competing with my colleagues and seniors. It almost broke me mentally. Late night hours every day, unreachable quotas, and bosses who took their frustrations out on us. I quit because I couldn't take it anymore. Sitting next to Sam, who spoke quietly from the sofa, Emily held her coffee cup with both hands, nodding gently with a yeah. I thought I could work more freely, more like myself, here at this company. But in the end, I became just like my old colleagues. Picking fights with people and looking down on others. I refused to do necessary overtime because I didn't want to be used by the company. And I got so stubborn that I lost sight of what really matters in sales, like working together with the team. I'm really sorry for making things hard for you, and thank you for advising Alex to review the deal with that company. As Sam bowed his head, Emily gave him a troubled smile. Please, lift your head, she said. You've already apologized, so it's okay. Besides, I think your sales skills are way better than mine. But if there's anything I can help with, let's share information and work together from now on. It was just like her to speak kindly. Still, even though we joined the company at the same time, you were so cold to me at first, it was pretty shocking, you know? Your fake smile and sarcastic remarks scared me. She added softly but with surprising honesty. Oh no, that wasn't my intention. Well, I was being sarcastic, and I'm sorry for that. But honestly, I've been interested in you since we started working together. Emily seemed too surprised to respond right away. And I, frozen at the corner of the hallway, was equally shocked. Realizing that eavesdropping any further would be wrong, I decided to give up on getting coffee and leave, but just as I was about to walk away, I heard her say, "I'm sorry. I have someone I like." She said, her words clear and unwavering. I see, Sam replied quietly. I know I'm in no position to confess after the way I've treated you. But I just wanted to let you know. I hope we can continue to work together as peers. His straightforward response was met with a quiet thank you from Emily. Sam said well then and quickly left the break room, and before I could move, I ran into him. Alex. Good evening. Good evening, I replied. There was something fresh and relieved about his expression, and I found myself naturally returning his greeting. I hadn't realized he could smile so genuinely, and it gave me hope for his future growth. Alex? Were you here? Emily peeked out from the break room and called to me. I just came by for a coffee and maybe a sweet snack. Sorry for overhearing, I said, feeling slightly awkward as I inserted an espresso capsule into the machine. Someone I like. Hearing her quiet comment behind me made me react instinctively. I'm waiting for that person to ask me out again. She continued, her face slightly flushed as she looked at me directly. Don't you think I've been pretty patient, Alex? Her teary eyes reflected the city lights beginning to twinkle outside the window. Emily, you're a valuable colleague to me. There's quite a big age gap between us, and maybe you only see me favorably because I'm your boss. Even as I said this, she didn't avert her gaze. It's not a childish crush or admiration for someone older. I'm not that young anymore, she stated firmly, though her voice softened afterward. But if it's no good, I'll give up properly. Her eyes wavered with uncertainty as she said this. I won't be staying at this company forever. I plan to go overseas again someday. I have too many things I still want to do. I'd probably end up being a terrible person who makes someone important wait, I said, my tone shifting. She picked up on the change. Even so, I still want to wait for you to ask me, she replied. In response to her words, I stepped closer and extended my hand. Just so you know, I'm the type who never lets go of what I want or what I care about. Once I hold on to you, I won't let you go. Blushing deeply, she smiled and placed her hand in mine. That's exactly what I want, she said, beaming with joy. Several years later, the company under Henry's leadership has continued to grow and evolve. He has asked me multiple times to take over as CEO, but I've consistently refused. I know my own personality too well. I'm too quick to cut ties when things get tough, which makes me ill-suited to run a large corporation. Henry, on the other hand, is far more tolerant and better aligned with the company culture our father built. In exchange, I've taken on the role of leading the new business venture Henry envisioned, serving as the head of one of the company's subsidiaries. This new venture, which allows me to pursue the international projects I've always wanted, seems almost as if Henry created it just to keep me involved in the company. "You're too valuable a talent to let go," he says with a sly smile, proving once again that Henry is as ambitious and strategic as ever. The sales department, where I served as a manager for several years, seems to be running smoothly now. Since that incident, Sam has mellowed out, and his once forced smile has disappeared. Now, he stays late if needed to finish his work and helps others out in a give-and-take manner when they need assistance. Even the company's seniority system has slowly begun to change. And employees like Michael and other older staff are working hard with a refreshed mindset. I distinctly remember how happy Claire, who was about to retire, looked when she shared this with me when we met at the main office. For her, it's a point of pride that the company she worked for so long is finishing on a positive note. As for me and Emily, welcome home. Emily, waiting for me under the clock tower at the international terminal, spotted me, ran over, and jumped into my arms. I let go of my large suitcase and caught her slim frame in my arms, whispering "I'm home" into her ear. Since becoming the head of the subsidiary, my overseas trips have increased, and this was our first time seeing each other in 2 months. "You must be tired from work. Was the flight long?" Noticing I looked a bit worn out, she gently brushed her hand over my eyes. A platinum ring sparkled on her ring finger. "The work went well, and I'll recover from the flight with a little help from you," I replied. I kissed her forehead, and her almond-shaped eyes crinkled with joy. "A life where I can enjoy more, rather than just do more. I've learned to live a life where I can find joy in what I do."